First of all, I would like to say that this conference is going to be quite interesting, since there are so many guests, ambassadors, and it's a very good opportunity to talk about some interesting and challenging issues that are still on the agenda of the OSCE. We are living at a time of changes and turmoil. Today, humanity is facing new challenges such as wars, conflicts, economic upheavals, human and drug trafficking, refugee crises, pandemics, natural and man-made disasters, proliferation of nuclear materials, arms race. The Ukraine crisis, having developed into a national tragedy, has undermined global security and revealed differences in perceptions of security system. Amid existing contradictions, fundamental norms and principles of international law embedded in the United Nations Charter and the Helsinki Final Act have been interpreted in different ways. So-called dividing lines, which are frequently discussed by politicians and diplomats, emerged long before the outbreak of the Ukrainian crisis. We have witnessed conflicts that turned into frozen ones and then into protracted ones. All of them have taken place in the post-Soviet area. There are reasonable concerns that the Ukrainian crisis, unfortunately, may slide into a frozen conflict as well. Therefore, we still pin our great hope on the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. This forum, comprising 57 participating states, including 4 nuclear powers, can and should help to strengthen, first of all, trust among countries in the interests of comprehensive security. As you know, the OSCE, created during the Cold War, tensions have been playing a key role in preserving peace and stability on a vast area from Vancouver to Vladivostok. The OSCE served as a valuable structure to maintain equilibrium in international relations at the end of the Cold War. We should praise the OSCE for preventing the conflicts from devolving into large-scale calamities and bloodsheds across the regions. 40 years after the OSCE spanning huge geographical area and taking comprehensive approach to security remains crucial and relevant. It offers an indispensable platform for dialogue where its participating states coordinate their positions and take collective decisions. In this regard, it's worth mentioning the outcome of the OSCE summit in Astana in 2010. It was this forum to introduce the notion of security community, replacing the old one, security space. This security community comprises a geographical area stretching from Vancouver to Vladivostok, a quote, free of dividing lines, conflicts, spheres of influence, and zones with different levels of security, the end of quote. The Astana Declaration noted that the security of each participating state is inseparably linked to that of all others. Indivisible security is the spirit of Astana, which launched the common Euro-Atlantic and Eurasian security community. The OSCE summit in 2010 marked the culmination of the Kazakhstan's successful chairmanship. This meeting took place after more than 10 years of a break and gave a strong impetus to achieving consensus on security matters. In our view, the OSCE participating states should continue their efforts to resolve the question of its legal personality. We fully realize how difficult this task is. However, it does not imply that this issue is not on the current and future OSCE agenda. This task is becoming even more critical or crucial given that old approaches to security need to be adjusted to new geopolitical realities. First and foremost, it is essential to strengthen, first of all, trust among states, as it is trust that brings predictability in international affairs. Unfortunately, international system lacks this glue. Contradictions among world's powers resulting from divergent perceptions and interpretations of events have been around for centuries. Yet the highest wisdom of a statesman is to seek common ground to avoid a war for the sake of humanity. The clash of strategic interests of states should not be a dominant trend in the contemporary world. We ought to make security and cooperation the top priority, as the name of the organization says. Therefore, the Kazakhstan's chairmanship made special emphasis on rebuilding and strengthening trust between states. Proceeding from this idea, the President of Kazakhstan initiated the first meeting of Russian and Ukrainian leaders in Minsk, which was the starting point to stop the bloodshed and resolve the crisis. There is no alternative to dialogue. The OSCE is unique for its potential to facilitate negotiations fostering consensus. It is very complicated, but we, as the security community, must make efforts to improve the international climate. The world is changing very fast. The signing of the Helsinki Final Act was a turning point of the Cold War that led to its end with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Yet the standoff between political systems and ideologies was succeeded by a new type of confrontation that occasionally becomes chaotic. 40 years ago, nobody could even imagine that international terrorism would emerge as a cynic and destructive force as it is today. I would like to remind that 40 years ago, China was a poor country that had come through a cultural revolution and was at odds with another socialist nuclear power, the USSR. The signatories of the Helsinki Final Act, while taking commitments not to change the European borders, most certainly did not think about the reunification of Germany, a velvet revolution in Czechoslovakia, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the breakup of Yugoslavia. The essence, the nature, and even the scope of the OSCE have changed considerably, especially with the accession of Mongolia to the organization, which was also difficult to imagine 40 years ago. Furthermore, it was inconceivable that later the OSCE would have to address such a difficult crisis in Ukraine. Therefore, at this time of changes, the OSCE should encourage and even generate positive trends in international developments. On the initiative of the Swiss chairmanship, the panel of eminent persons was established. This panel is working on recommendations on how European security could be reconsolidated as a common project, including on how to help the OSCE work more efficiently. I am convinced that the OSCE may play a more visible role in crisis diplomacy. Conflicts of all types and at all levels international, local, interreligious, or sectarian ones, not only jeopardize the security of millions of people, but also undermine the world economy with far-reaching consequences to the generations to come. Against this backdrop, President Nursultan Nazarbayev, addressing the 70th session of the UN General Assembly, called for building a zero-conflict world, pursuing the concept of a new future and enhancing the rule of international law. While dealing with international security architecture, we should not forget about the OSCE economic and environmental dimension, which was somehow put aside amid increasing battles in the political and military as well as human baskets. This dimension is very promising since successful economic cooperation based on mutual benefits will ensure building a world free of conflicts. It's worth mentioning the words of one of the founders of the European Coal and Steel Community, a French politician and diplomat, Mr. Robert Schuman, who said that this organization will make it plain that any war between France and Germany becomes not merely unthinkable, but materially impossible. This declaration is still relevant nowadays. Holding this conference in Astana, it should be noted that Asia plays an ever-increasing role in global affairs. It is in the interests of the OSCE to enhance its cooperation with Asian fora for security, including the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The Parliament of Kazakhstan pays special attention to the activity of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We must take full advantage of opportunities that this forum offers. I wish the conference participants fruitful and interesting work. Thank you for your attention.